Well, welcome everyone to our third conversation in our month-long series, Herky's Hour. I am Jane Oswald with our Athletics Development Office. And before we get started, I just had a couple of housekeeping items to go over with everyone. Your microphone and camera are off for today, but you can still participate by asking questions via the Q&A or the chat feature that are located in your Zoom menu bar. I will be monitoring those throughout today's conversation, so feel free to put your questions in one of those two options. We will also be recording today's session, and the link for those recordings and along with the other conversations from this month will be on our website, herkies.hawkeyesports.com at the end of the month. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll turn things over to our Deputy Director of Athletics and Senior Women's Administrator, Barbara Burke.
Thanks so much, Jane, and it's great to have everybody back. I can't believe we are already to our third series here today for our Herky's Lunch Hour. As you know, we're celebrating girls and women in sports throughout the entire month of February. For those of you that don't know a lot about our Herky's community, it was formed in 2018 with a rich commitment to celebrating the history and tradition of women's athletics here at the University of Iowa, also providing opportunities for our female student athletes, empowering that next generation of leaders. And I am not ashamed to give out our website, herkies.hawkeyesports.com, where you can find all things Herky. So I ask you to visit that site as well. Remember, we're continuing to celebrate Black History Month, the entire month of February. And if you go to our website, every Monday we release a new video that highlights some of our former great Hawkeye athletes. So be sure to take some of those videos in as well. In addition, don't forget to put your questions into Jane as we go through today's program. Now let's get started. I know that all of you were expecting to see three coaches. Megan Menzel, our head women's golf coach, is unable to be with us today, and that is not unusual in our business. Her team was traveling, her golf team was traveling out in Las Vegas for a tournament this week. And due to weather, the tournament was delayed, the flights were delayed, they couldn't get a flight out yesterday. Again, we deal with that all the time. They are actually in the air trying to get back to Iowa City, but they had a great tournament. They finished 4th out of 13, had some really great individual performances. So we will celebrate them as they are traveling back here to Iowa City. But you know, I've got two great guests here, and I'm excited to be able to introduce them to you and for you to get to know just a little bit about these two women. Larissa Libby, our head women's gymnastics coach. Larissa, you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody.
Awesome. And Lisa Salucci, our head women's field hockey coach.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to have all of them here. And, you know, I'm just going to talk a little bit about each of them and then a specific question, and then we'll get to our question and answer session. But these two women together have over 40 years of coaching. That is simply amazing. Those 40 years of experiences mean a lot to our student athletes. Each of you are former athletes, both high school and college, and one of you is an Olympian, and we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. The other strange thing that's going on right now, due to the pandemic, Lisa, your team is competing this spring. You guys normally compete in the fall. And so everybody's schedules are kind of messed up a little bit. So we really appreciate both of you taking so much time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. I'm going to start with Larissa, but I get to share a little bit about Larissa today, and her career, not only as an athlete, but as a coach, is just amazing. We are so fortunate to have her leading our young women. But Larissa, you've been at Iowa for more than 21 years, with 17 of those being our head coach. There are so many things I could share. I had to pull some things out that really highlight the type of woman and leader that you are for us. Your teams consistently finish in the top 25 in the country. Currently, you're ranked number 7, the highest regular season ranking ever of one of our programs, and also the number 1 ranking in floor exercise. So amazing. Congratulations to your team on that. You've also led your team to 19 straight NC2A regional appearances, either with the whole team or individuals. You've been multiple time coach of the year. You've coached 11 Big Ten champions, 4 NC2A regional champions, and 10 NC2A championship qualifiers. In addition, if that's not great, your teams also excel academically. So on the mat, in the gym, in the community, just an amazing team. Prior to coming to Iowa, you competed and coached at your alma mater, Louisiana State, better known as LSU. What we'd like to hear from you a little bit, Larissa, is tell us a little bit about your Olympic experience. But I want to share, because you're modest, you were Canada's first ever world vault finalist, a member of the Canadian Olympic team in 1988, the Canadian World Championship team in 1988 and 89. You've been long considered one of Canada's greatest athletes, being in their Whitby Sports Hall of Fame. As I said earlier, we're so honored to have you and feel blessed. And really, can you share what it took to be that Olympian and how that has helped prepare you for the job that you're doing now today, leading our student athletes?
First, thanks everybody for the opportunity to be here and to be among the great women that we have in this department. And certainly to be with you, Barbara, who is helping to lead the great women in this department. So thanks again. Loaded question. I feel like, first of all, loving the fact that we talk about 1988. Can we leave the years out? That would be so great. Just take those out of there. What did it take? A lot of sacrifice, a lot of hard work, a lot of lonely hours. I was the youngest competitor at the Olympics for every sport, not just, and at the time they allowed, as long as you were turning 15 in the Olympic year, you could go. So it was, needless to say, deer in the headlight moments for me a lot of the time. I was in Seoul, Korea. But it was the pinnacle of my sport. It was everything that everybody ever wanted to do. And being so young and getting a firsthand look at some of the controversy in the sport with the judging and at the Olympic level was very hard for me to see. But again, the sport shaped me. I am where I am because of those years and what I went through and the love of the sport. You know, I didn't know that I was even talented. I remember just flipping around, and I followed my sister to the gym, to be honest. My parents just felt like, and that's how most gymnasts start. There were feet on the wall and trying to clean that off. My parents felt like I needed something better to do. So I followed my sister, and that's kind of where it started. But I remember my mom was doing my hair one day, and she asked me, "Do you want to go to the Olympics? Your coaches think you're good enough." And I flat out said to her, "Absolutely not. I don't want to work that hard," was my answer to her. And from there, I'm not sure what changed. But I felt like it was my God-given talent. And who was I to kind of deny that? And I had great people to work with. And those people were my family as I went through lots and lots of long hours in the gym. But I also feel like it's a sport that's very disciplined and focused. And it helped me to stay focused on the things that I needed to. Even, you know, as I was heading off to college and went to LSU and kind of fell into this profession that I'm in. I think all of those years and the sacrifices and the hard work and looking back have helped me to look at the things that I would have wanted or would have needed if I had the perfect scenario. And so where I am now, I often will look back at those years and think, you know, if it was me, what would I want said to me? If it was 8 o'clock in the morning for me training, would I want to be in this situation right now? So I think while all of those, I really don't talk about them very often because the first thing anybody says is, "Did you win?" No, I didn't win. It's kind of just like the Oscars. It was just an honor to be there. And really, it really was just an honor to even get there. So I'm so proud of those years, but I'm more proud of where I am now and who I am now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those personal moments. Sometimes that's hard But I
Yeah.
have no doubt what you sacrificed in those early years have paid dividends for you now and leading your team. So thank you for being a Hawkeye, Larissa. I'm going to jump to Lisa, and we're going to go to a completely different sport because Lisa, you coach a sport that is not traditionally played in the state of Iowa, but that has not stopped you. That has not stopped this sport from being nationally prominent. You're in your 21st season as a member of the Hawkeye coaching staff, and you're in your 7th season as our head coach. You yourself, Lisa, were a 3-time All-American and a member of the U.S. national team, the all-time saves leader here at Iowa, one of our greatest goalkeepers of all time. And I have to tell a story because I was calling it goalie. Do you remember this, Lisa? And you corrected me, and I have thanked you from that point forward. She was not a goalie; she was a goalkeeper, and
Thank you.
that's what our goalkeepers are. So I'm pretty clear about that. Your teams are consistently ranked in the top 20. Last year, you led your team to the Big Ten regular season championship, the Big Ten tournament title, and it gave the Hawkeyes their 15th Big Ten title and 6th tournament title. You were also voted Big Ten Coach of the Year by your peers. Lisa, tell us a little bit, because field hockey is not a sport. You know, there's certain pockets of the country that it's very prevalent. But tell us how you first got introduced to field hockey and how you remained in the sport and what influence your family might have had for you in the sport of field hockey.
Well, thanks, Barbara. I really appreciate, first of all, having the opportunity to be on this webinar. I've so enjoyed these Wednesday afternoons during the past month, but I'm not really sure I want to follow Larissa. I mean, what a superstar that is for sure. I mean, an Olympiad in front of us here. But, you know, to answer your question, I was first introduced to the sport of field hockey in 6th grade. We had a former college field hockey player and mom of one of the students in my school was starting a program. So I had never seen the sport played, knew nothing about it. And my sights really were firmly set on, you know, continuing to play basketball and softball, which I absolutely love. So, you know, many of my friends, we're going to go learn about it. So I thought, like, why not? Let me try this out. It's in the fall. Let me see what it's all about. And it was really intriguing to me because it's a very technical sport. And I also just love the team aspect of it. But you know, I had in my mind thinking of, oh, okay, I'm going to go play in the midfield, be a part of the action of the game. And after the coach really laid out all the positions, you know, no one would volunteer to play goalkeeper. So I went home that night, told my parents all about it. And the first day and told them no one wanted to play goalkeeper. And my dad said, Lisa, why don't you offer to play the position? You know, you've played catcher in softball. It's got to be about the same because it's all about stopping the ball. And of course, it's nothing like being a catcher in softball, but we did not know any better at the time. And then he also reminded me, like, you know, if you volunteer to be the goalkeeper, you're probably going to be a starter. So why don't you go for it? And he knew that would strike the chord with the competitor in me. And sure enough, I went the next day, volunteered to be the goalkeeper and never played another position, actually. So as Barbara mentioned, though, field hockey is not played in the state of Iowa. It used to way back in the 50s and 60s, but predominantly played on the coast, very sparingly in the Midwest. And, you know, most popular area for the sport is the East Coast. So I actually grew up in Radnor, Pennsylvania, which is a suburb of Philadelphia. And I come from a really large Italian Catholic family. That's why I'm talking really fast with my hands right now. Sorry. But, you know, at every sporting event, there was a ton of Salucci's sitting in the stands. I was really lucky to be one of 4 kids. I'm the only girl, 3 brothers, and I have a twin brother. So I kind of believe my competitive nature started when I was in the womb because I was competing for space with my brother, Mike. But Mike was also a Division I athlete. He was a rower at Syracuse. So as you can imagine, sports were a huge part of our family's life growing up and still are to this day. And, you know, my parents were really supportive of all of us playing any sport we wanted to. And my dad found a way to coach all of us at some point. Have to say, my mom does not have an athletic bone in her body, but she was the best fan around, had the difficult job of making sure we all got where we needed to go, always had the rosary beads ready during the games, and, you know, really held us accountable when she didn't like maybe how we were representing ourselves on the court or the field. But I can't thank my parents, my brothers enough for, you know, how they contributed to my athletic career, and really the time and money my parents spent to help us reach our athletic goals was unbelievable. And, you know, their willingness to support their daughter going 16 hours away from home to Iowa to play field hockey, certainly changed my life and really set my career path to coaching and why I'm here now.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. It's interesting. We have two sports that are very technical in nature, and I admire I admire all of our student athletes. There are some sports in particular, when I watch our women's gymnasts and the work they do on the beam and the vault, I could never come close to doing that. And then Lisa, you've heard me say with your kids all the time, sometimes I think, I don't know who our best athletes are. We have tons of really, really great athletes, but whoever figured out a sport that you have to run bent over, holding a stick, and you can only use one side of the stick. I mean, who decided that? So I just think it's a really challenging sport, and it's fun to watch. If you haven't seen either of these teams compete, I would invite you to come out and get a look at these teams, because they're amazing athletes, amazing athletes. So let's ask a couple questions for either one of you, whoever feels led to answer. What do you see that our girls and our young women in sports taking away from their experiences today that are going to help them in the future? In other words, what's the value of them competing on their teams right now? So either one who feels led, I'll kind of watch.
Go ahead, Lise.
I knew she was going to say that. Well, I mean, really, I've been witnessing young women for years. I see them walking away from their experience in sport as just resourceful, independent, really poised, mature women that are ready to face anything life throws at them. And we all know life throws some curveballs at us. So, I think they're learning problem solving skills. They're learning how to navigate difficult conversations, which is a skill everyone should possess for sure. And the transformation that we see from freshman year to senior year is unbelievable to watch. And to get the chance to help shape their future in a small way is really the reason why I coach. But these women are unbelievable. And the growth process that they go to, at least in college here in the 4 years, is really, really a marvel to watch.
Just to kind of follow off of what Lisa's saying, I think that one of the biggest impacts that we have, and we as coaches also have and need to realize, is that these 4 years are probably the most important that they're going to have, especially for our female student athletes. I know specifically in my sport, trying to figure out who they are without their sport and defining themselves as this person without what I do. Gymnastics is what they do. It's not who they are, but it's really hard for them, and for any athlete, I would think, Lise, to separate themselves from their sport. And so in order to be that empowered female, that person that knows they can stand up to anything when they leave here, they know exactly who they are, what they want, what they're going after. They got to figure out who they are without gymnastics or without field hockey or basketball or football. It's the same for men. It's not like they don't grow up starting very young. It's just that this is their sport. It's everything they've known. They've done everything to get here. Now what? And so I think that the biggest impact that we have for them is helping them to take that next step, to making them feel like when they graduate, they can take on the universe. And if they don't feel that way, for me, then we haven't done our job. We may have taught them to win, but we're not supposed to teach them to win. They're supposed to win at life. That's where they're supposed to be. For us, gymnastics doesn't go on to the pro level at all, not for women. So life is it, and they need to be ready to go and to walk out there and to empower the next generation of women behind them, whether that's on this team as alum, representing the Hawkeyes, or just representing their family name. They have to be able to walk out of here and know what they are and give that to the world and be proud of it. And I think we do an incredible job at the University of Iowa with our student athletes. And for me, it's the biggest part of our culture, our philosophy, and getting our student athletes ready for life.
Awesome. Thank you. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, together, you guys have over 40 years of experience in the business. This business has changed, right? It's changed dramatically. Some positive, maybe some not so positive, but what are some of the biggest changes that either you've experienced professionally and personally, or that you're seeing changes with your student athletes over these last several years?
I mean, I think, well, sorry, do you
Go,
want to
go. Go ahead.
I think, one of the biggest changes for women and just in sport in general that I've seen is, when women actually get the media coverage and attention they deserve, the response has been fantastic. I mean, take, for example, NCAA softball, right? Once ESPN decided to truly cover the sport, it exploded. And there's men and women and boys and girls are watching it on TV and loving it. And it's covered even more so. So the exposure continues to increase. And so does, the want for all these people to want to play. I know with the COVID and the pandemic, we've all had a little bit more time in front of the TV. So I know, there's a lot of new documentaries and Netflix series that are telling female athletes and coaches stories that help immensely with the exposure just for all female athletes. And many of you may have seen The Greatness Code on Apple TV or The Playbook on Netflix. If you haven't, check it out. Tell your teams, your daughters, your sons, your husbands, your friends to watch it. I mean, the interviews with the likes of, Jill Ellis and Dawn Staley and Alex Morgan, I mean, they've all been such compelling stories and are really engaging. And even with this webinar, I mean, what a fantastic idea that Barbara had to turn this into reality, and how awesome it was to hear from so many of the SWAs in the Big Ten. I know I learned a lot from Debbie Antonelli and the Herky's Voice podcast that Sasha Schmid's doing a wonderful job with. I mean, it's exciting, it's empowering, it shows the support out there for women, and we need to keep the momentum going. So that's probably the biggest change I've seen, like just in general.
Awesome, great. Larissa, you had something to add.
Lisa answered it as well, but I think, just going off of that, social media is everything. The amount of information that our student athletes have access to, and that everybody else, vice versa, has about them or about the sports or the universities, there's just so much all the time. And I think, if you're asking how coaching has changed as well, there's a whole, you kind of feel like a little bit like a manager. You have to get in there and manage their profiles and manage this and manage and the information that's maybe put out, and checking to make sure that the people that are watching are okay. And while it's such a good thing, because like Lisa said, the exposure for our sports in particular has been incredible. And we are in a pandemic where people can't go and do, we've had more exposure this year from being, I don't know whether maybe just people didn't know that we were out there, and actually clicked on it one time and there we were. And they found these amazing young women in amazing sports. And it wasn't just about their sports. They're intriguing young women who are bright and brilliant and beautiful and athletic, all of these things. And I think that their stories are compelling and relatable. And I think that that's the biggest thing for me in our sport, where social media has been really helpful in being able to portray those things about student athletes, and in particular our young women, because there's so many people out there that are just like them.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Lisa, we have a question from a listener asking for you to repeat the names of the documentaries on Netflix and Apple TV. So can you say those slowly so they can write them down?
Sure, slowly. On Apple TV, it's called The Greatness Code. And on Netflix, it's called The Playbook.
Awesome. Thank you. And I see Jane is putting that through the question and answer as well. And Jane, while you're doing that, for our listeners, we're going to pause here and go to a wonderful video. We have a great support, external staff, individuals that help us. We want to share a video that highlights our female student athletes. In addition, you're going to see a very familiar face in that of Dr. Christine Grant. And most people on this call, if you don't know her, you know of her, and what a tremendous impact that she has made nationally for girls and women in sports. So let's take a minute and just watch this video highlighting our, as Larissa put it, our beautiful female student athletes.
Today, on National Girls and Women's in Sports Day, we look back on the women who built the foundation we stand on.
How would young people today even know? Because they don't know their history. Yeah. They think what they've got today, women have had forever. I was told in no uncertain terms, women were not interested in sport. I mean, don't you find that hard to believe? Well, I couldn't accept that.
To the women who revolutionized sports for us, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But we are not done.
We are here to move her forward.
To empower the next generation.
And to remind everyone that not only are women interested in sports,
we belong in sports.
Such an awesome and powerful video. You know, that's why we all do what we do on behalf of those young women right there. And as I said earlier, that video you can find on the Herkies website, herkies.hawkeyesports.com, and you can share it. There's a capability to share that with family and friends, and we'd ask you to do that and send that message. And I'm going to look at Lisa right now because you actually play and practice on Grant Field. Tell us what that means to you and your student athletes.
Yeah, well, it's an honor to have played on Grant Field myself, and then to coach on it, you know, for the last 21 years is really a true privilege. I mean, Dr. Grant's impact on my career as an athlete and coach was transformational. And, you know, I first met Dr. Grant when I was 17 and being recruited by Iowa. And it was an honor to meet her at that time of my life. And really, I feel like the opportunity to be a student athlete at Iowa under her leadership in the late 90s was unbelievable. And I feel really even luckier to have had her presence or friendship or guidance, you know, during the 20 years of my coaching career. But what's so awesome is that, you know, she didn't just make an impact on my career, she's made an impact on all women in athletics. I mean, it's one thing, you know, to believe in something. And I think it's quite another to just unquestionably dedicate your career and very life to that belief. And Dr. Grant really is entirely devoted to the belief that the world's a better place when women have an equal opportunity to compete, and that they deserve really an equally challenging field upon which to try to excel and achieve their goals. So needless to say, our athletes, our Iowa field hockey athletes, know with all of their beings who they are representing when they step onto Grant Field each day. And they know it's because of women like Christine Grant that they even have the opportunity. And at the end of almost every conversation I've ever had with Dr. Grant, she has said to me, Lisa, you remind those women that they are strong and they can be anything they want. And I think that completely sums her up. I was going to try to do her accent there, but I decided against it just in case. But I mean, really, that those were her words to me all the time.
That's awesome. Jane, do you have a question coming from any of our listeners right now?
I do have a couple of questions. These are kind of coaching related. So what led you into being a coach? Was there like one aha moment that you had, or did you always know you wanted to be a coach? And then to follow up that, do you have any advice for younger coaches just starting out in the field?
So Larisha, let's start with you on those questions.
No, I did not know, to answer the first part, I did not know that I wanted to coach. I went to school to do sports psychology. I got my psychology degree, and I don't know. I don't know kind of what stopped me there. I had an opportunity at school to help out. They had just brought in the secondary position at the time. It was a restricted earnings position. And you know, I owe my life right now to Dee Dee Bro at LSU. She's the one that started me coaching. I was injured in college. My body was broken. So from my elite career, and I was coaching anyway, always in between, just trying to help my teammates. And I think I just kind of fell into it naturally. And Dee Dee was the first person that recognized that in me, I think. And she gave me that opportunity. And from there, I felt like, okay, I kind of found my passion of what I always got more excitement out of watching my teammates succeed from something that I said. So that's kind of where it started for me. What would I say if you're starting out? I would say, like, don't box yourself in your, you know, coaching career. Like, especially in gymnastics, it's kind of like it's always been done that way. So that's the way we're going to do it. Well, it's not. That's the worst thing that you could do for yourself, whether that's coaching or in life, I feel like. And there are so many different ways to teach and to get at a young athlete now. And that would be my other advice, is not to be afraid to treat your athlete like a human being, and let them see that they're respected for that. And then you'll find that you're probably going to have a better coach athlete relationship with them as they grow and they learn to trust you. I think that's probably the thing that I learned the most about getting things out of your athletes that's hard to do. Just being relatable and not being afraid to be that person with them.
Awesome. Lisa, when did you know field hockey coaching was for you?
I mean, I feel like I knew right away. I think really some of you may have heard me talk about it before. I mean, I had an obsession with coming to the University of Iowa, or at least being recruited by Iowa. And a lot of that had to do with my coaches and the women that were on staff here that were unbelievable and Olympians. And, you know, I am a diehard competitor, and I thought maybe that would help make the transition from competing as an athlete, taking all that energy and competitiveness and roll it right over into something that was equally as challenging. And every day you still have the opportunity to compete. And I used to joke all the time when I was in school, like, well, I think maybe I should just stay in coaching, because then I don't have to leave this awesome opportunity, because I just love so much my experience of being a Hawkeye and being a part of Iowa field hockey. But, you know, I really think one of the aha moments for me that I was like, okay, yes, I definitely am going to pursue this as a career, is I had the opportunity to be a student athlete and be at the 25th anniversary for women's athletics, and was sitting there, and all of these fantastic former coaches and current coaches and these awesome former athletes were getting up and talking about lessons that they learned. And it was all about, you know, the mentors they had in their life. And really my coaches changed my life, and I wanted to be able to kind of give back in that same way. And so, yeah, I feel like I knew early on when I was in college.
Awesome. Both of you do a wonderful job leading. We kind of hit all around that today, but what have you done to hone your leadership skills that can help your student athletes develop both academically and athletically? And I'll throw it out to either one of you. You don't necessarily both need to answer, but.
Do you want me to go? I'll go. Okay.
I
think leadership, it's definitely a process. And, you know, I think if you want to continue to develop your leadership, you have to make the commitment to continuing to learn. And it takes a lot of honest self-reflection and challenging yourself to expand, you know, really beyond your comfort zone. And especially with this Generation Z of athletes, we're trying to continue to understand how to connect with and to motivate. And I know sometimes we all scratch our heads at times, but I think what's been so beneficial to me and to developing my leadership and leaders on my team has been our investment in becoming more effective communicators. And it's taken a lot of work, being really vulnerable at times, and a lot of practice. And, you know, it's tough for anyone, but let alone young women, to have difficult conversations or to hold each other accountable. But I think when they're able to do it effectively, it's a game changer. And, you know, we've had a communication specialist share something that resonated with our team and coaches immediately. And I just want to share it today. You know, she said to us, we can have the conversations needed to create the results we say we want in our lives, or we can have all of our reasons why we can't have those conversations, but we can't have both. Reasons or results, we get to choose. which would you rather have? And when you hear that, I mean, it puts it right into perspective. And we have yet to encounter a situation, at least with our team, where the reasons outweigh the results that we want. So we're not great at it yet, but certainly getting better. And I've seen firsthand the confidence it gives the women on my team when they work through these situations. And just the other day, I had one of them share with me how they navigated a tough conversation with two older students in their business class group project. And she was so proud and confident telling me the story. And what makes me smile is that she's going to be able to do that in a boardroom one day, you know, and she's learning that through sport. So
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Jane, I saw a really great question coming through the chat concerning recruiting. Let's see what our coaches have to say about that. You want to ask the question?
Oh, yeah, sorry. What do you look for in potential recruits?
Oh, Larissa, you're ready.
I mean, I think people will think that we look for very different things because we have very different sports, but probably we're looking for the same thing. Obviously, you're looking for a level of talent. You know, we want our student athletes to, in gymnastics, have 4 great events. But more than that, it's the desire to be great and to continue on. Our seniors are still learning and loving every second of it and doing very well. And so we want somebody that wants to be coached and wants to learn and wants to be at that next level. But most importantly on our team also is the understanding of culture and the role it plays in your life and in this being your new family, and not that you're coming here to do a sport. We're looking for the best of both worlds, the combination of student athlete. We believe that we provide the best of that at the University of Iowa with the academic help, and then what we have with athletics and top-notch competitive facilities. So we are expecting a student athlete that we recruit to be the best in those areas, at least in the desire to be the best. That doesn't mean you're going to be the greatest as a freshman. The freshman year is so hard, just transitioning, everything new. And certainly now with all of COVID, and it's a new excitement every day, a journey for all of us. So it's definitely been hard. So you're looking for that kid that is okay with those things and change and wanting to grow, and maybe not like having a full understanding, but realizing there is a bigger picture out there.
Lisa, what are some characteristics you're looking for?
Definitely competitors, for sure. People who are resilient and flexible, kind of like as Larissa mentioned, but willing to, you know, things are going to turn as you go through your career, and you're going to be asked to be put in a lot of different situations. So to be, you know, willing to have that flexibility and then to play a role that you may not necessarily enjoy at first, but it could end up being one of the best things and life-changing for you. And really someone who understands that they're going to be part of something bigger than themselves, and that they're going to be representing, you know, a program and a university that has a tradition and a standard, and, you know, you're going to wear Iowa across your jersey in Iowa field hockey, and that really means something. And what does that mean? So we want people who really want to be here, want to be Hawkeyes, and to be able to represent us.
I think a question I'd like to ask you guys is a question that you might be asking to the listeners. What can listeners do to help us advance girls and women in sports? Do you guys have any ideas on how they can help us and participate with us to advance girls and women in sports? I threw that's a new question.
That's a good one. Larissa?
Lise? We talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
But not in front of people. Just, I think that we talk about it a lot because the people that I surround myself with are so passionate about what they do. And I think that what people could do to help us is see that passion, understand it, want to be a part of it, realize that it's what's driving us, and that there is no difference between the passion between me and Kirk. There isn't. Both of our jobs are stressful. Both of us have to answer to certain people. Both of us answer to a community because we choose to at the University of Iowa. Not everybody does that, and we choose to. We choose to allow Hawkeye Nation to be a part of what we are and what we're growing. And if you could hear the ideas behind behind scenes, you know, that we have a foundation that you can go to help support us, you know, obviously with facilities and things like that, but just getting the word out that we're more than just for sports. We have incredible sports across our entire program, and getting that word out and talking about the fact that we're 7th in the nation right now, that we're #1 in the country, ahead of my alma mater. Thank you. That's who we overtook last weekend. So, and I have to give them credit because they did call and tell us how amazing that we are. So very proud of that. But more importantly, proud of the young women that are in our program, proud of the coaches that we have and that I get to lean on and to listen. That's the best thing they could do. Listen, watch, look at what you're seeing out there, and not just as athletes, but as the people that are going to be in your community within 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and driving Hawkeye Nation after that.
You know, I think it's really important as women that I like to say, and you guys have heard me say it, if not me, then who?
Mhm.
And if not us, then who? If we don't continue to tell the story, like you saw Dr. Grant in the video, if we don't teach our young women why they have the opportunities they have today or how they came to have the opportunities, that message is going to get lost. And so I think we have a responsibility, and you know, asking our listeners to have a responsibility as well to help us share the story and share the message. And I think I saw Larissa smile, and I smiled because I saw Gary Barta put in the chat, LSU who? And so we agree with that because it's not LSU anymore. It is Iowa and Iowa floor. So congratulations. Now, Larissa, you said the S word, and that S word is stress. And so I'm looking at Lisa right now, and Lisa didn't want me to talk about stress or anything like that, but come on, you guys. We work in a stressful environment. So give us just one. We're getting close to our end time. So just one thing that you do that helps you come down, helps you to relax, to de-stress, just one thing that has been successful for you. And Lisa, be honest.
Right. Well, Larissa knows this, and anybody who's my friend that's listening, that I have not mastered this skill of relaxing or de-stressing yet at all, but I'm definitely learning as I get older and I'm more and more in this head coaching role that you have to, because you can't keep it going, to be honest. But I think COVID actually has helped me more than anything, because there's so many different stressors, but you did have time to get into routines of different things that I normally would have never been able to do. So, you know, really just taking a long walk or being able to like try to shut down and watch a good movie. Those are probably two things. I mean, ideally for me, it's for sure being able to spend time with friends and family, but we don't have that opportunity right now. And during the course of the season, that's really tough too. So I'm still working on it, but probably just to get outside and get some fresh air.
Awesome. Larissa, how about you?
Yeah, I would say just spending time away. Like, it's so hard to take yourself away, especially when you have a phone. It's difficult. Everything is right there and everybody knows how to get to you at all times. So again, like Lisa said, with COVID, I think I learned to adjust to trying to push that and give myself spaces of time. Learning how to do that. I learned to lean on different people and have just conversations and understand that I'm not the only one. But I think that when you know that there are a million other people that are sitting exactly your shoes, that are just like you, doing exactly the same thing, and that you're not the only one that woke up this morning and looked at herself in the mirror and just that you're not the only one, and being able to lean on those people and go for the walks and read different books, getting into podcasts, trying to, when you have good friends that will help you to shift that to, great, I'm going to let you feel bad today, but how can we flip this and make us great? Because this is all we need to do. Just get out of my way and we will be so great.
Awesome.
Just finding those people that will help you kind of flip it to something different.
I think we all have individuals we can pick up the phone and call or go talk personally with that kind of help center us.
Yeah.
Before we close today, one really quick last question. So Lisa, in what way can our listeners connect with the women's field hockey team?
I would say come on out to Grant Field. Well, I know the attendance policies, but you can stand behind the gate and still see into the field if you can't get in. Turn on the Big Ten Network. We actually do get quite great exposure on the Big Ten Digital Network, and check out the sport. I know you're going to love it, and you'll see some fierce females that are playing an unbelievable sport and that put their heart and soul into it. And just learn about our program. Larissa mentioned it earlier, but there's probably a lot of people in the state of Iowa or even on campus that don't know we have a field hockey team that has been to 11 Final Fours or 17 Elite Eights or, this or that, but would love for you to learn and see our women in action, because I think you'll be hooked.
You have some social media sites, right?
Yes, social media sites, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Check us out and you'll get an in-depth look into Iowa field hockey.
Awesome. Larissa, how about your group? How can folks connect with women's gymnastics?
I would say the same. Like, the best way to connect with us is really getting to a competition and you can see exactly how they are out on the floor. I think it's the thing that gives the most insight into how different our young women are. Obviously we can't come in the building right now. So the next best thing is, Hawkeye Sports, or we were just recently on ESPN. And we also Big Ten Network. So you can go on those things. Our social media sites, which are run by the amazing Ryan Ruckdeschel. He does an incredible job in not just it's not really showcasing our gymnastics, to be honest. It really is showcasing who these young women are behind their gymnastics. Yeah, they are amazing and talented, but getting to know them as people, I think, and connecting with their stories, I think is what drives most people to say that the Gym Hawks are different and very exciting to watch. So
Awesome.
I'd say those are the best ways.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. We've run out of time, and I want to thank our listeners for joining us for the third session here that we've had. It's been great having everybody, and I want to make sure that next Wednesday is our last Herkies Hour, and we have Joni Comstock, Senior Vice President of Championships and Senior Women's Administrator at the NC2A. Joni has a long tenured career. She's been an athletic director. I mean, you name it. She's been in the business a long time, and I think she's going to have some wonderful insights for us. Also, don't forget, February is Black History Month. Visit herkies.hawkeyesports.com to celebrate some of our great alums. This week on Herkies Voice, which is our podcast, you'll hear from Nicole Ray, a golf letter winner who also has a successful career at Golf Digest. I really hope you continue to enjoy these webinars. I know we've had a great time putting them together for everyone. And as I've done the past 2 weeks, I want to leave you with a quote. And I think this quote is really applicable to what we've been talking about today. And that's really specific to our female student athletes. And it comes from Condoleezza Rice, an amazing woman. And here's what Condoleezza Rice had to say. We need to move beyond the idea that girls can be leaders and create the expectation that they should be leaders. That's amazing. And signing off with Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.